An origin story where you shouldn't have survived, then becoming the biggest rapper in the world is almost a work of fiction. But that's the story of 50 Cent, who in 2000 had to face one of the biggest challenges of his life, overcoming death, struggling through a difficult recovery process, and coming back stronger than ever before. In the late 90s, the upcoming gangster rapper from South Jamaica, Queens, named 50 Cent, was taking the underground rap scene by storm, with his mixtapes deemed classics by many. Another enormously famous rapper at the time, Eminem, admired and acknowledged the rookie's talents after hearing 50's Guess Who's Back mixtape and signed him to Shady Records in 2002. That's how mainstream fans got their first chance to hear 50 Cent in the iconic movie 8 Mile, where 50's single Wanksta was included in the official soundtrack. Then more mixtapes came, 50 Cent's fanbase grew, and his first official album was becoming more and more real after his initial debut project, Power of the Dollar, released under Columbia Records, was scrapped. Thankfully, 50's sales record-breaking Get Rich or Die Tryin' saw the light of day and became the project that propelled his career to unprecedented heights and helped 50 Cent become one of the most recognized rappers of the 21st century. But what happened to 50's first unreleased project? What made 50 Cent scrap the entire thing right before its release and potentially postpone his road to success for years? With 50 being one of the toughest rappers the game had ever seen, the only plausible explanation for the debut album's release cancellation could have been 50 Cent being shot and being hospitalized for months after the incident. On May 24th at 11:22 a.m. on 161st Street in the Jamaica section of Queens, Curtis Jackson, known as 50 Cent, was shot 9 times from a 9mm handgun. Bullets pierced 50's arm, hand, both legs, hip, chest, and jaw.
The shock of what's actually going on, it hurts after.
Where were you shot? Which part of the body? Where did the bullet
Oh, I got shot in my hand. My thumb came out of my hand, my face, and out the tooth.
Wow, oh my goodness, there's a hole there.
Yeah, it kind of changed my voice too, and this is the voice that sells 8 million records, so I think everything happens for a reason. The guy who actually shot me is dead. And the guy who paid him and got life in jail.
Leaving him in a severely critical condition. As 50 recalled in his interview with Oprah, he didn't feel as much pain during the actual shooting, although the pain caught up to him soon and he felt absolutely broken. After the actual shooting, I went through a portion of me actually being afraid because I was hurt physically. I was hurt bad. I was afraid and uncomfortable with being afraid, and the only time I wasn't afraid is when I was actively involved in actually looking for somebody connected to it. To find out who was the actual shooter, 50 Cent had to reconstruct the whole incident from the beginning, since he couldn't see the gunman's face clearly. It was midday and 50 was at his grandmother's house with his friend. Right before the incident, 50 Cent entered a vehicle parked in front of the house where his friend was waiting for him. 50's grandma was working in the front yard, and then suddenly,
the car pulled up on the side of us. A guy got out the passenger seat of that car, came around behind it, and shot through the actual car.
The gunman made several shots hitting 50's body 9 times, although thankfully, none of the vital organs were damaged. He was immediately taken to the hospital, which helped the medics get him in stable condition within days. He spent 13 days in the hospital and was sent home for further recovery. As I mentioned previously, this incident damaged not only 50's flesh, but his mental state as well. 50 was feeling afraid and paranoid, and the only thing that could help him bounce back at that moment was a vendetta. It shifted me. It's when you get hurt that bad, either your fear consumes you or you become a bit insensitive and you start to approach the problem instead of run from it. Given 50 Cent's rough upbringing and close relationship with the criminal world, there were more than enough suspects in that case. Obviously, 50 Cent wasn't shot by accident, or it wasn't a robbery that went wrong, since none of 50 Cent's possessions were stolen. It was a direct, attempted murder, and something much more serious and personal must have taken place, and that's exactly what happened. The main theory about who actually set this incident up had been circulating around hip-hop forums from back in 2000. Rap fans who were following 50 Cent's music and knew some facts about his biography immediately connected the dots between his freshly bootleg track Ghetto Quran from his unreleased album and the people whom 50 mentioned on the song. In 4 minutes, 50 Cent mentioned some of the Southside's biggest drug kingpins and crime bosses, described some of their illegal activities in a few words, and painted a general picture of how things are in his Southside Jamaica neighborhood. 50 mentioned many names, including extremely influential crack kingpins Kenneth Supreme, or Preem as 50 called him in the song, McGriff, and his nephew Gerald Prince Miller. For all you slow mother effers, I'ma break it down iller. See, Preem was the businessman and Prince was the killer. Many fans speculated that the drug empire leaders might have thought that 50 went too far in describing the crimes and putting their names next to him, which led to Supreme allegedly sending someone to gun 50 down. Even though the theory had some logic behind it, things weren't as simple as they seemed. In 50's own words, everything that's in Ghetto Quran is in Cop Shot, a book in the effing library. Everything in that song was in the newspapers at the time that it went on, meaning that the facts 50 Cent used for the track's lyrics weren't a secret. Most of the people 50 mentioned were either dead, incarcerated, or had already served punishment for the crimes described in the song, making the whole theory a reach. So logically, it would mean that Supreme had nothing to do with 50's incident, right? Well, things weren't that simple. Being one of the biggest and most feared names in Queens throughout the 80s and 90s, the Supreme team's main leader, Kenneth McGriff, who went under the nickname Supreme, had a lot of trouble with the law, needless to say. In 1989, Supreme was arrested and sentenced to 12 years in jail, but was released on parole after less than 5 years. After spending more than a decade in the trenches of Queens, Supreme wanted to start his business from scratch, and this time do it as cleanly as possible. In the 90s, hip-hop was one of the hottest things coming out in the country, and Preem set his eyes on conquering the industry so that he could generate a clean profit without the excessive hustle and the risk of going back to prison. That's when Supreme started his business relationship with Murder Inc. Records, run by his old friend Irv Gotti. Supreme was supplying the label with dirty cash and covering some of their expenses, getting clean checks in return, allegedly. Simply put, Murder Inc. Records was Supreme's big investment and his next empire in the making. Some of the first label signees included Black Child, Tom Murda, Nemesis, and most importantly, Ja Rule, who played a big role in 50 Cent's career in life, or vice versa. The record label generated massive amounts of cash for everyone involved. Everything was going fine, and the cooperation was proving to be a huge success for both parties, until one notorious incident. In 1999, one of 50 Cent's friends robbed Ja Rule of his chain while the latter was filming a music video. Allegedly, the rapper was actually trying to get revenge on Ja Rule for personal reasons. Ja got his chain back with the help of Supreme, and sometime later he ran into 50 at the club. 50 Cent was hanging out with the guy who robbed Ja Rule, which made Ja Rule think that the whole robbery thing was actually 50's plan and act aggressively. According to 50, he had nothing to do with stealing Ja Rule's chain, and it was a coincidence that the robber was his homie.
Guy got robbed in the actual neighborhood.
And he accused you of robbing him.
He just seen me communicating with someone who actually
robbed him.
And he misinterpreted the conversation because he seen me laughing and us talking, but he didn't know I grew up with the guy.
Ja Rule, on the other hand, denies seeing them together, though he did confirm that the robbery occurred and claims their beef stems with 50 being cold-shouldered by Murder Inc. during a shoot for his single Murder for Life that happened after the robbery. This fact was confirmed by 50's ex-manager, Chaz Slim Williams, as he also believed that it not only made animosity between 50 and Ja Rule grow, but also marked the beginning of 50 Cent's beef with Murder Inc. Records as a unit. For one reason or another, 50 wasn't going to let any sort of disrespect slide and was fully going at the whole label without any filter. 50 called out both Ja Rule and Irv multiple times in interviews and various media appearances, and even dedicated an entire diss track to his newfound enemies. But before releasing a song, 50 came to Supreme, who was the undercover boss of the record label, to get his opinion on the beef. Ja Rule and Murder Inc. were Supreme's cash cows at the time, so he wanted 50 Cent to drop the beef and leave them alone. 50 had a different thing going on in his mind, so he released a diss track anyway. In the song Your Life's on the Line, 50 Cent went at Ja Rule, calling him a soft, weak, studio gangster rapper who never deserved to be in the spotlight. 50 even mentioned Ja Rule's affiliation with Preem, although after numerous talks with Supreme himself, where the Kingpin once again told 50 to stop trashing Ja Rule, 50 changed some lyrics and removed a bar about Ja Rule's stolen chain. Obviously, 50 had some respect for Supreme, and even looked up to him as Preem was an icon back in the days when 50 Cent was still hustling on the streets. Still, 50 couldn't let Murder Inc. just go, and refused to back down. Ironically, 50 and Ja Rule got to meet face to face again a couple of months later. The two had a live show in Atlanta booked in the same venue on the same day, and 50's and Ja Rule's management wanted them to talk things out and come to peace. The two met at the hotel, and Ja Rule allegedly brought a baseball bat with him, swinging it through the conversation trying to act tough. Ja Rule was absolutely furious because of 50's diss and was yelling the whole time. Soon things got heated, and 50 Cent threw a punch at Ja Rule, giving him a black eye, allegedly. Ja Rule's people went at 50 and started swinging at him, although 50 managed to snatch Ja Rule's chain before 50's people stepped in and stopped the fight. Due to a massive black eye, Ja Rule couldn't perform at the show, which meant no money for Supreme and the team. 50 Cent, on the other hand, went to shoot a music video for the aforementioned diss track, rocking Ja Rule's chain to add insult to injury. Once again, Supreme had to approach 50 to get Ja Rule's stuff back, but this time 50 Cent got a nice gold watch in exchange for it. The beef was far from over, and 50 kept going at Ja Rule and the crew over and over again throughout the next few months. Each time, Preem was there to tell 50 to chill and fall back, although it never stopped 50 from bullying Ja Rule every chance he got. Supreme definitely wasn't a fool and did his best to keep 50 from getting his rap career going. Preem made calls to numerous record labels telling them not to do business with 50, as Supreme wanted only Ja Rule, his cash cow who was already successful, to continue succeeding. Supreme and the team couldn't let a really tough, hungry, and talented upcoming rapper take the spotlight away with all the clowning of Ja Rule. 50's then mentor and manager, Chaz Williams, was also all about business and actually had a close relationship with Preem. The two were plotting behind 50's back and tried to get 50 Cent to squash the beef once and for all, as it was hurting their income. Chaz and Supreme arranged another meeting between 50 and Ja Rule, but 50 Cent was having none of it, as he knew that something would definitely go wrong, just like the last time in the hotel. Preem and Chaz were furious, and 50's manager dropped him, leaving him on his own in that situation. Now that 50 was a direct threat to Supreme's bread, things went on to the next level. Once again, things got physical when 50 Cent's G-Unit crew ran into Murder Inc. at the Hit Factory Studios in New York City. Ja Rule allegedly got info on 50 recording in the building, so he decided to pay him a visit with his crew. The brawl broke out, and Murder Inc.'s rapper Black Child pulled out a knife and stabbed 50 in the gut. The two crews got separated, and 50 left the building, hiding his wounds. 50 returned home, where his grandma cleaned the wound. The next day he went to the hospital, where he got multiple stitches. Soon after, a restraining order on 50's behalf was ordered by the police. It stated that no one from Murder Inc., including Black Child, Ja Rule, and Irv, could get close to 50. The streets heard these rumors and started talking about 50 being a snitch. Interestingly enough, 50 wasn't the only person who got stabbed in the brawl, as Black Child was swinging with his knife without actually aiming, as it was a dark room. That's where the restraining order would come from, not from 50 requesting it personally. Things became even more heated between 50 Cent and the Murder Inc. crew, and Supreme couldn't afford to deal with 50 Cent anymore, as he was causing so many issues throughout those couple of years. During this time, the infamous song Ghetto Quran was leaked. As I previously mentioned, 50 dropped tons of names of hustlers and bosses of Queens on the track, and many believe that this song got him shot. However, it turns out that Supreme was actually included in the initial version of the track and had a line of his own in the intro. It means that Supreme definitely saw what 50 Cent was actually trying to do on the track, paying homage to the OGs rather than trying to set them up. Bimmy, who was actually name dropped in 50's song, shared his opinion on it. I felt good hearing, he bigging our hood up, he bigging Queens up. When he made that, I'm like, yo, yeah, showed him what it is. And when Bimmy was asked about what other people mentioned in the track thought of it, or if it was a bad thing, he simply responded, not really. That was being said. It was a tribute to Queens. Most likely, this misconception came from the poor timing of track leakage, so fans tied it up to 50 Cent's shooting, as some hardcore hip-hop fans were actually aware of the whole 50 and Supreme drama behind the scenes. It wouldn't matter if the song wasn't released. One thing was certain, Preem had enough, and he really wanted to end this entire situation. Pulling shots on 50 and 3 other people Supreme had similar issues with. Preem paid $25,000 for each hit, including 50's. The man Supreme hired was Daryl Hamo Baum, and he was the one who attempted to kill 50. When I was shot, Hamo pulled the trigger. He was part of Mike Tyson's board, 50 Cent mentioned in the interview. He was indeed a close friend of Mike Tyson and his ex-bodyguard at the time.
Ever find out who did it?
Yeah, I knew who did it shortly after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are now where?
Oh, the guy who actually shot me is dead.
Hamo was a known killer for homicide and was an experienced fighter in the streets, although he couldn't finish 50 after 9 shots from close distance. Only 3 weeks later, Hamo was shot dead in a drug war. He was shot in the back of his head with a 9mm handgun. It had nothing to do with 50. The shooter was none other than Lil' Kim's ex-boyfriend, Damian World Hardy. Mike Tyson was extremely saddened about his close friend dying and was ready to pay $50,000 so someone could take World down. Things got crazier when World ordered a hit of his own on Mike Tyson of all people. But the all-out war was ended after World was put in jail for allegedly murdering 5 more people. Ironically, years later, 50 Cent bought Mike Tyson's mansion, so everything seems to be fine between the two nowadays. Even though 50 wasn't the one who was responsible for putting down Hamo, he was actively looking for Supreme and his crew as soon as he could walk after being shot. After he got hit, riding around in Mac 10 by himself, looking for people, looking for Preem, it was real. And he did it on his own. That's how upset 50 was at the time at Supreme and the team. There are even rumors of 50 setting up Preem in the federal prison, which resulted in Supreme getting his arm broken. Eventually, the intensity of the beef got lower as Supreme was put in jail and Hamo, the shooter, was killed. 50 uses Crazy Life Story for tracks for his highly critical acclaimed album and one of the greatest and most iconic hip-hop albums of all time, Get Rich or Die Tryin', and different mixtapes which made him one of the brightest hip-hop superstars of the 2000s. Ja Rule, Irv, and the entire Murder Inc. crew had the attention of the feds due to the record label participation in what they claimed was money laundering scheme for Supreme. The artists, including Ja Rule, failed commercially throughout the next few years, in large part due to their funds being occupied in the federal not only investigation but also case, and the label became a shell of its former self ever since. In 2017, Murder Inc. Records partnered with 300, thus marking a newer chapter in the label's book, and 50 has become more than just a rapper, becoming a huge celebrity and a respected businessman, also doing his own TV shows and entertainment. 50 Cent still keeps throwing shots at Ja Rule and Murder Inc. Records anytime he gets a chance. In 2013, the crew even admitted to losing the beef.
Do you think, because you say now you could say, in hindsight, you could say, yes, we took an L there.
Yeah, we took an L. But listen, the thing about it is when you're going through it, you're going through it.
Make sure to subscribe to never miss anything. And there's no better way to sum this crazy story up than with 50's own lyrics from Many Men. In the Bible, it says, what goes around comes around. Hamo shot me, 3 weeks later, he got shot down. Now it's clear that I'm here for a real reason, because he got hit like I got hit, but he ain't effing breathing.